Dollar versus BRICS. Can Africa and Europe trust undemocratic powers? The global economy often feels like one very long, never-ending game of monopoly. The US dollar has been the small player dominating the board for decades, comfortably lounging on boardwalk while everyone else empties their wallets to pay rent. Meanwhile, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are that group of underdogs who have been watching from the sidelines, plotting revenge, whispering, maybe it's time we start our own game. Africa and Europe, they are the courteous players hovering around the table, quietly asking, should we stick with the familiar old chap or risk it all with flashy newcomers? It's money, trust, corruption, and global power all colliding in a high-stakes drama. And spoiler alert, the ending isn't as simple as winner takes all. Let's rewind for a second. Why does the US dollar even matter this much? Because it isn't just paper, it's the backbone of global trade, oil deals, and finance. If you want to buy oil, or sell coffee, or move billions in investments, you don't do it in any other currency. You do it in dollars. After World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement crowned the dollar king, linking other currencies to it. Imagine if every concert, no matter where you lived, only accepted tickets in one currency, the dollar. That's exactly how the world has been running. And despite America's political cycles, the government shuts down threats, the Twitter wars, the occasional conspiracy theory about lizard people still trust the dollar. Why? Because compared to the alternatives, it is the least messy roommate in the global house. The dollar may be loud, opinionated, and sometimes arrogant, but at least it pays its bills on time. Now, BRICS. On paper, these guys look like a powerhouse. Over 3 billion people, massive GDP, huge reserves for resources, and some of the fastest growing economies in the world. Their dream? Break free from dollar dependence, create their own reserve currency, run their own finance system. Sounds noble, right? But there is a catch: trust. Because here's what makes the dollar king: not just size, not just history, but trust. Trust that the system is transparent, that contracts will be honored, that the government behind it won't just change the rules mid-game. And this is where BRICS stumbled. Russia and China, the loudest voices in BRICS, are hardly global symbols of democracy. Asking the world to hand over its savings to BRICS currency is like asking people to invest in a bank where the CEO won't tell you how much money is in the vault. African situations is even more fascinating. On the surface, many African leaders support BRICS. They like the idea of breaking away from Western control. They like the sound of independence. But let's be honest, many of those same politicians quietly park their personal wealth in dollars, offshore accounts in Switzerland, dollar, family investments in Dubai, dollar. That new apartment block in London, they definitely forgot to declare dollar. It's like swearing up and down that you will only eat healthy cooked meals and then sneaking off to McDonald's at midnight. Publicly, it's BRICS. Privately, it's Big Mac and fries in dollar form. Why? Because stability matters. Politicians can make speeches about independence all day, but when it comes to protecting their money from inflation, goals, or bad governance, they run straight back to the dollar. That's loyalty, not out of love, but out of pure survival instincts. And then there is Europe. Europe has the euro, but in reality, the dollar still dominates the trade, especially in energy. Europeans complain about Americans' dominance, but quietly admit it is easier to trust the dollar than risk everything on a system led by countries where transparency is optional. Europe is like that friend who insists they are independent but still borrows your Netflix password every month. They might flirt with BRICS for leverage, but deep down, they know who is paying the bills. So here's the big question: can Africa and Europe actually trust undemocratic powers like Russia and China to manage a global financial system? If we look at history, the answer leans towards not really. But trust isn't just about economic members, it's about governance. If a country censors its own citizens, punishes critics, or hides financial data, how exactly will it convince the rest of the world that their shiny new BRICS currency is safer than the dollar? Think of it this way: would you hand your life savings to a magician who says, "Don't worry about what's up my sleeve, just trust me"? That's a problem BRICS faces. Meanwhile, the dollar keeps winning because it's boring in the best way possible. Yes, America has scandals. Yes, politicians scream at each other on TV, but institutions still work. Contracts are enforced. Banks don't disappear overnight. That kind of boring reliability is what keeps global investors addicted to the dollar. Now let's talk about corruption. It's not just African problem. Corruption exists everywhere, in BRICS countries, in Europe, even in the US. But the difference is how corruption affects systems. In countries where corruption is systemic and unchecked, it bleeds into financial contracts, trade deals, and trusts. A leader skimping off the top might not seem like a big deal until you realize the entire system starts to wobble, because no one knows what's real and what's fake. This is why BRICS has a credibility issue. If the dollar is the overachieving kid in class, annoying but consistent, BRICS sometimes look like the flashy new student who promises to ace the exams but refuses to show their homework. You want to believe them, but deep down you hesitate. For Americans, this whole debate isn't just academic, it directly impacts daily life. The reason your gas prices fluctuate, the reason imports at Walmart stay relatively affordable, the reason the US can borrow money more cheaply than most countries, it's all tied to the dollar's dominance. If BRICS really did succeed in dethroning the dollar, the average American would feel it in their wallet. Inflation could rise, borrowing could get more expensive, America's global influence could weaken. In short, the monopoly board will start tilting in directions that make life less comfortable. But let's not jump to Hollywood endings. No, BRICS isn't about to destroy the dollar overnight. Even if they launched a gold-backed currency tomorrow, it will take decades of consistent performance to match the trust built into the dollar. Global finance doesn't flip like a light switch. One step forward, one step back, sometimes stepping on toes. So what's the likely outcome? A messy middle. The dollar will keep its crown, especially in big ticket trade and finance. BRICS may find niches, maybe in regional trade deals or commodity markets, but toppling the dollar entirely, not anytime soon. Africa and Europe will hedge their bets. They will experiment with BRICS but keep their core savings in dollars, because when you have got a family fortune or a national budget to protect, you don't gamble it all on a flashy new player. You stick with the guy holding broad walk, even if you complain about a smug smile. At the end of the day, the story isn't about who wins, but about how power shifts gradually. BRICS will keep pushing. Africa and Europe will keep pretending to love both, while secretly siding with stability. And the world will keep watching popcorn in hand, because this isn't just finance, it is ultimate global reality show. The big lesson: money isn't just maths, it is trust, it is politics, it's human nature. Until BRICS can offer the same boring, dependable trust that the dollar provides, Africa and Europe may flirt with them, but their true loyalty and their offshore accounts will still dollarized.